We were talking about your report. It's a specific agenda item. Now, if we want to skip over it, please acknowledge it and let us move. We were talking about your report. We weren't talking about number 6.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, stop, just
Does
calm down.
council have additional comments on item number 6 that hadn't been?
Yes, we would like so if, for council's information, on this grant, LJ8 Engineering is the project manager. They're gonna bring us forward the information because the way the mayor presented it last meeting had us confused because we didn't have the information before us. We're at the beginning, the middle part of one process and the beginning part of another process. And so the mayor is correct. LJ Engineering is gonna bring us they're gonna be the project manager. They're gonna vet through the organizations similar to what we did for the Alta Vista lift station. But the way the mayor communicated it last meeting had us a little confused, and which is why it's a separate agenda item. But again, council, LJA is actually handling the project, and they're gonna be the ones that bring the information to us.
And that's exactly what was said 20 minutes ago. But anyway. Item 7, we're skipping because it's not complete yet. Item 8, discuss and take action on the designation of zoning officer, development officer. Councilman Wallace.
Yeah, so we've been talking about the building official for a while now. So in one of our ordinances, I just want to find a specific ordinance. So in our ordinances, when it talks about the zoning officer and the developmental officer, it says, as a section 2.02, certificate of occupancy, and so one certificate of occupancy is given to any occupancy in use of a building hereafter erected or structurally altered. And so then a procedure for a new or altered building says the zoning officer shall issue the certificate of occupancy not more than 10 days after the erection or alteration has been approved by the city. Then also in section 3.01 responsibility, says the development officer shall certify all certificates of occupancy prior to the issuance. So up to this point, mayor has been operating the role as the zoning officer and developmental officer. So now that we have a building official, mayor, are you still going to be the zoning and developmental officer, or are you going to give that to the building official, because it also states that the zoning officer is the mayor or designee of the mayor, and the development officer is also the mayor or designee of the mayor?
Well, it depends. But you want me to sit here and tell you whether I'm gonna give up a hat I wear or something?
I want you to tell us who the zoning officer.
Well, right now, you just read in the charter. The
Right,
ordinance,
I'm saying.
zoning officer's me.
No, the mayor or the. So I'm saying, as we get a building official, are you willing to make the building official the zoning officer or development officer? Are you gonna keep yourself as the zoning officer?
Well, it depends on the functions and whether or not they fit them. They're supposed to start August 1st.
They're more qualified.
No, because once
What
you're.
does the zoning officer do?
They're more qualified.
What do they do?
What do you do?
If you don't know, it's okay to say you don't know.
No, I mean,
What do you do?
I'll deal with that as it comes across my desk.
so are you still gonna operate in the role? Because like I said, the zoning officer, they are the ones that sign off on certificate of occupancy. So after a building is created, after the building inspections, and they're ready for a final inspection, they ask for the zoning officer, the development officer to sign off on the certificate of occupancy, which is basically a person saying that people can live within this building or structure. So I'm just asking, as we have a building official, someone that is trained in that realm of building inspections, are you going to allow them to have the designation of the zoning or development officer, or even though we have a building official that is experienced in building inspection, are you still going to keep the hat and the title of zoning officer and development officer?
And that's exactly what they do.
I just told you. Do you know at what point a certificate of occupancy is issued? Do you know?
That doesn't do my
No,
question.
yes it does. Do you know?
All right, tell us your point.
Okay, after the development, building officer and inspections and fire safety, after they've done all that stuff,
Then that's when you sign
then the city signs, but they only sign it after all the experts that you're referring to
But, Mr. Mayor,
have done that. The
That's a
city
workshop.
is still
I think,
the ones liable for all this stuff.
but we run into a problem in which you,
Well,
as we receive, the permits and different things of that such, that it may be possible, it's left up to you whether or not to move, to allow for someone to move in at a time in which the building is not past final. And so what we're asking is that with the building official, being that they're helping us walk through this process along with us, would you mind,
Leave that alone.
given that they have the expertise to go ahead and let them be the designee of each, Mr. Mayor?
We work with their expertise now, and we're going to work with it. We're gonna have a building official effective August 1st. We've already been meeting with Bureau Veritas to put that in place. But I'm not sitting here as you just asked me that question off your head and give you an answer. No, just like you don't.
Would you be willing to?
Sure, I'd be willing to.
So are you?
What did I just tell you?
No?
Why not? If you may ask.
I don't have to give you a reason now for why I do or don't do something, gentlemen. You asking me a question off the top of my head that's
And if
not
I
on
might-
agenda.
And
If I might,
It's not on agenda.
Well, it is on the agenda, but if
No.
he answered your question, you
not.
couldn't hold him to it because the ordinance says the mayor and or his designee. So I mean, you might take his word for it, but his answering that question doesn't do any legislative action.
We're just asking would he be willing
in
to.
the
And I
moment
said
that,
yes.
in the moment that he makes a designee, then you have to answer your question. You're not gonna get the answer to your question now. I mean, you asked it, he's answered it. And so in the moment that he makes Bureau Veritas a designee, you get the answer to that question. I think
Exactly.
you asked it, you put it out there in the open, and then it's up to the mayor to take that information and do it as he wants, but continue to ask him over and over again, he isn't gonna give you an answer.
And I just have one last question. Is he able to like, so at some point, okay, make the building official the zoning officer, but then, you know, next week say, oh, no, I don't want to be zoning officer?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
you can take it back anytime.
Yeah,
But again, Mr. Mayor,
One clarification.
this,
Yeah, Councilman Randall, you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
again, I think the concern of Councilman Wallace was, again, we are all in this together, but we made some decisions. We're gonna bring in a building official from Bureau Veritas, and he was just trying to get some clarity on the direction moving forward. We can't say we want all these people coming in and then go back to the same process where the mayor gets to override everything. And all he was just clearly saying, and the mayor says, he doesn't know right now, so come August 1st, we can put it back on the agenda for August 12th and then go from there. But hopefully everybody is moving in good faith, that we're all on the same page and that the mayor's not gonna override what they do.
One of the things that you have to keep in mind is I'm thinking and dealing with things that are obviously not necessarily on your mind, but I don't know if them doing the zoning officer is included in this $5,000 a month, 2-month sample contract. You know, you can't just, I mean, that's what I'm saying, you're asking me to make decisions up here, and we've got contracts that have been reviewed, accepted, approved, and we have to go by them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you gave me
Mr. Mayor.
answer.
Yes, Councilman Randall.
I definitely agree with you on that, but I also think that may be why Councilman Wallace asked that question, because if that was the direction that we decide to move forward to as a city, then we could have that discussion as far as, you know, approaching Bureau Veritas, if there would be additional funds, so, I mean, we don't need to belabor the point, but I think we would definitely like for you to, you know, consider that either way, and then, you know, just kind of get back to us, and if that is the most feasible way of moving forward, then we can get to that point once we get to it.
No problem.
Yeah, I will take no action.
Okay, item 9, discuss and take action on city council retreat. Councilman Wallace.
Yeah, so once again, I've been working on trying to get us to have a city council retreat. And a retreat is basically 2 days where we just take some time and we really just strategically plan. We really try to focus on where we want to move the city forward, and plus, because we're about to enter a new budget cycle, I think it'll allow us to have a conversation about a lot of things that we need to have a conversation on. So, first thing I did was try to figure out a date. So, the date I proposed was September 7th and September 8th, which was a Saturday and a Sunday. September 7th and September 8th.
I mean, where's the retreat gonna be?
So a retreat, so basically a retreat
Don't
is,
say where would it be?
I'm still playing out, because it depends on, first the date, and then once I have the date, then I'm gonna try to find some location and present it to y'all.
Who pays for it?
Yeah, that's what I
City. I mean, again, whether we, he'll bring it up, but the city would pay for it, just like when we did the all-day event. One of the points that Councilman Wallace made was, you know, when we meet, if
Wait,
we,
I'm sorry, you can't just kind of skip over that and say the city pays for it because it has to be budgeted, right?
So, and that's why first I'm asking for the date. I'm trying to find the most cost efficient way, because at the end of the day, like, because I know that, like, if we haven't put in the budget, then we can't go. So of course I would try to look for a place where we could just drive to, you know, be there for a couple hours for a 2-day span, and then come back, but still get the work done that's needed.
my only my only thing about it is that we're talking about September. Remember, our budget starts August 1st. And so we also, Mr. JJ, need some information from you.
You mean October 1st, don't you?
No, the budget planning cycle is starting August the 1st. I have a preliminary with me. I will give that with the mayor, and he'll share it with you all.
Yeah, but the actual budget, the new budget cycle starts
Well,
October 1.
when they talk about when the new budget's gonna be in effect, yeah, August
Right.
the 1st, right?
Yeah,
Any action on item 9, council?
I think.
Well, first I put out a date on,
I can tell you now, Saturdays and Sundays for the next couple months, I'm not gonna be available.
so it has to be,
It's a definite no for me during football season because we're gonna be working Saturdays and Sundays.
so it has to be during the week.
If it's in the evenings. That's just for me now, y'all can have a retreat without me.
I mean, the purpose is-
If it's good for everybody else, cause I can tell you, you know, 'cause when we first started talking about this, you know, a few months ago, and, you know, we thought we might have aligned in the summer, but as far as like September goes, it's a no for me.
Yeah.
so
Can
it
I
has to
just-
be, so
excuse
it
me.
has to be a
Excuse me,
weekday.
can I just have a comment here on the retreat?
Yeah.
I've been here for 2 or 3 retreats. Before you start talking about a retreat, first you have to plan what you're gonna cover at the retreat. You kind of touched on that, but the retreats I've seen the city have in the past, we've had at a resort area one day, we had them here at the city because of the cost at the resort area. We saw that you could have it here at the city and have the food and what have you, it reduced cost tremendously. But you do have to plan your agenda first.
Yeah, because
Before
it
you-
has to be posted, it's a
Yeah,
public
right,
meeting.
you gotta plan that
Quorum.
first,
Right.
and then you take it from there, but you just said retreat, but first, plan it as far as what you're gonna discuss and what.
So, all right,
You just
so-
touched on
Yeah,
the
so-
budget, but the budget basically will be over with as far as a September date is concerned.
So the purpose of the council retreat is, one, we're gonna talk about different types of strategic plans, right? There's capital improvement plan, still got the street drainage plan, it's a
That's
multitude.
what I'm saying. Then put it together, put that together first. Put that together first. Once you got that together, then you can, if.
Yeah, I mean, so the reason why I put out dates today is because I know that the longer you wait to put out dates, then people will start, you know, plugging in their calendar. So my thing was, all right, I need a preliminary at least get a date so that we can, you know, once you know the date is and solidify everybody's calendar, then of course, like, this is not gonna be the end all be all meeting. I just want to take this meeting to do a retreat, but if council, cause I want all council members, and plus the retreat is not just for council mayor, it's also for personnel as well. Whether it's, city staff, the front office, you know, every entity possible, but so if we can't do Saturday, Sunday, then we'll have to go in the middle of the week. And I think the week will,
That just makes it
Friday?
a workshop.
Well, keep in mind, if you're talking, some of the major topics that you're discussing, city staff have nothing to do with.
Right, staff.
So, they have nothing to do with that. When you start talking about some of the major items and projects, then, you know, they'll be here running the city. And that'll be overtime on the weekends. So all of that stuff has to be discussed. I know you said council retreat, but now when you're getting into the employees, you're
like,
getting
just
up
like,
here with.
They're talking about the department heads, not individual employees, but department heads should be facilitating the things in their department. They have knowledge and history of things that are going on that helps in the conversation, so they would be included. We would have to get something that is convenient for them. We wouldn't want to hold them all day, but they would be part of the conversation.
alright, so this, obviously there's a lot of complication with it, so what I'll probably do is just go back to the drawing board. Try to get some time, get more specific with it, exactly what we could talk about, that way we can see the time frame and allocation. So if we have to make it a workshop, and we can make it a workshop, but at least say, okay, this will probably take 3 hours to do this, or 2 hours to do that. The next time, it comes back to council, there's more specificity with it, so with that, I take no action with the, council retreat.
Item 10, discuss and take action on street assessment. Councilman Wallace.
Okay, so one, I want to say I truly do appreciate JJ for all the help in terms of his advice, and Councilman Jones, and the council for just working on this diligently. So one thing that was recommended is, so after we looked at some of the streets, so the biggest thing was, so there are some streets that are straight like dirt, right? But that would take a lot of money to fix, because there's just no formal gravel or anything. But what JJ recommended was look at some of the streets that needed patchwork. So after we did a ride around and see and try to see which streets had which needed patchwork, it came to Hollyhock, Bell Street, and Vaquita Street. In terms of the patchwork, and then after you give a patchwork, then you can talk about like the crackings of the edges and the widening of it. So what JJ recommended was that as we figure out like, you know, the length and the width of the street and the patches in it, that we put it out for bid. And so companies will come and say, okay, this is how much we would charge to do this type of work. So that way we can see an estimate of what the cost is. And so I thought that was a good idea, because, you know, it now allows them to do the work instead of us doing the work and trying to assume how much it costs. So once again, it was Bell Street, Hollyhock, and Vaquita Street. So if those 3 streets are identified, the next step that we can do is go by there, take pictures, figure out, you know, how many patches we have, and then we can hopefully put it out for bid and see what some of these companies say in terms of pricing for it.
Who's gonna do that?
Oh, I can ride around.
Yeah,
Me, JJ, and Jones.
Have we got the surveys back from our last conference workshop? Where are we at with that?
That's what we're talking
That's
about.
what it's from.
Yeah, cause you know how we had a rubric system? They were at the bottom, those 3 streets were at the bottom. And like, so there were streets that were worse than that, like Mary Antoinette, Joan of Arc, but those,
At the bottom in terms of,
Like-
in worse condition, not county streets that haven't been paved at all. These are worse condition paved, currently paved.
right, cause Mary Antoinette and Joan of Arc is not paved
They're not
whatsoever,
paved
not
at
even
all.
close.
Right.
So we went to the things that were,
The next level.
right. And then these were the streets that needed patchwork, and so these would be considered the worst after Mary Antoinette.
Did you take a look at Richards Road and their Business 290? I just saw two serious holes as recent as day before yesterday. When you say the worst streets,
Yeah, when we rode around, that's the street that we found, was Bell Street, Hollyhock and Bakita Street.
Richards Road, near Business
But
290.
but like I said, that's added on then, I don't see why we would have a problem. If there is, we can go by there, check it, and then put that out for bid as well. Because we just wanted to see what the cost estimates would be, for someone fixing it. So having that said, we'll go out, we'll do a ride around, get the pictures, so that council can be edified on what it looks like, and then try to move forward with that process. So with that, I asked to put this on the next agenda, because that should be done by the next time. So I move,
You got that, Ms. Bynum?
so I move that we table the discuss and take action on street assessment to the next meeting.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded, the council table the discussion and action on street assessment and it be carried over to the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard the motion, ready for the question.
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right. Let the record show as unanimous. New business,
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Rowland.
Council, I wanna move that we go back, I don't know how this got off the agenda, but to discuss, I'm sorry. Discuss, consider, and take action on the most recent Bureau Veritas inspection reports and civil engineering for Panther Hill Apartments, the Gates at Prairie View, and Campus Edge Apartments. This was an agenda item that was from June, that it just fell off. So again, I want to make sure that we get that on the agenda. That's-
No, it didn't fall off. It was thoroughly, we had Miss,
No, no.
we
so I
had
asked
Ms.
for-
Rogers
yes,
here, and she
Well,
thoroughly went over that
Yeah.
and answered council's
I
questions.
asked
What
for
else did you
civil
want?
engineering, and so the goal was to get all the civil engineering for these three. So
Civil engineering plans
Yeah,
that you
so,
want? Okay.
so let me read it again. I want to make sure you get my motion. Discuss, consider, and take action on the most recent Bureau Veritas inspection report and civil engineering plans for Panther Hill Apartments, the Gates at Prairie View, and Campus Edge Apartments.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded that on the next agenda, the Bureau Veritas inspection reports for Campus Edge, Panther Hill, and Gates of Prairie View, and a copy of the civil plan,
No, the civil engineering report
the civil engineering report
for those three.
for those same three. You've heard the
Yes.
motion, ready for the questions?
Question.
Any unreadiness?
In my unreadiness, I just want to make sure that what we're clarifying. We want all three apartments. We want, the reports that, most updated reports, and the civil engineering plan for, whether they have water, sewer, and drainage for all three, and where a civil, engineer has signed off on those plans. That's what we want, for those three, developments, so,
Okay, well, the civil engineer report would be
yes.
from a civil engineer. You've heard the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, Councilman Jones.
Okay. I would like, I'm gonna list all of mine and re-forward the email to you, Ms. Bonner. So, mine is discuss, consider, and take possible actions on debt of services. Discussion, consider, and take action on administrative functions, including personnel budget, K-9 dog, and policies for the Prairie Police Department. Discuss, consider, and possible action on developing an ordinance schedule to be updated online. Discuss, consider, and take action on council corner and the city newsletter.
Done?
Mhm.
Okay, Counselor,
Second.
we had,
Oh, he did make a motion.
okay, all those in favor? Well, you've heard the motion, ready for the question.
Question.
Okay, I've got it on readiness. Counselor, the and it came up and we weren't clear, that's only why this particular one wasn't on. When we say theft of services, do we need to be definitive? And I'm thinking, for example, if we're saying an employee, for example, that's a personnel thing that has to be published and it can't go into executive session because they got a right to, have it out here. Do we need to be more specific on theft of what services, who's stealing?
If the discussion is intended to be about a specific theft of service, yes. If
Okay.
the discussion is to be on an ordinance regarding theft of services, just kind of.
Okay, just setting something in place, okay. I just wanted to, so that you
Yeah,
could,
but if there is
address it.
anything regarding an employee, you always have to state that person's name. Because they have, if city council wants to go into executive session, they have the option to have it heard in open session.
Plus
That's up
the
to them.
Open Meetings Act means, I need to know you're gonna be talking about
Yeah,
me,
it
whoever
has
you
to
may
be
be or
specific
something.
enough to
So
let
I
them
just
know.
wanted to-
Mr. Levitt, what was the name of the company that was plugged into?
The name of the company is on the video that you have. It's on the pump truck, so you can look on the video.
So, yeah, if that's the theft of service you're talking about, is what he was talking about in his, then that should be specified.
So, you could send that, like that name or whatever he's talking about to Ms. Bynum, then we could put it on there. Now, unlike an employee, they don't have to be notified that they're on agenda or something?
Well,
If you tell me he's
Well-
stealing, that's a public,
well, wait,
yeah.
that wouldn't be something that council would take action on. So my guess is what you're talking about is what we have been talking about earlier, is what is the policy on when we allow such a thing? If it's actual theft of services, that would go to the police, and it's out of your hands completely. If you're talking about actual investigation into theft of services. If you're looking into, how does the city ordinance read as to when we, allow a private company to do that, or do we have a policy on that, or should we enact a policy on that? That's a council decision. So depending on what you're looking for, you may or may not be in the right forum.
So I have a question. Cause I like both, but if there is a theft of services, then we can't do anything about it.
Report it to the
Wait,
police.
report it to the police department.
Oh,
Yeah, no, totally, but yeah, you wouldn't get to vote on whether it was a theft of services or not.
no,
That
I
would
just
go to a
wanted
court of law.
To talk about the, policy, all those kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
and then see where we go next.
Yep, that's absolutely appropriate for you
Alright,
guys,
so I
yeah.
don't need to put the,
Then you would not need to put the company's name. If you're talking about all of the companies in general, you could put the concept on of, discuss, consider, and take action on cities' ordinances and policies regarding utilization of city services regarding water for private companies, or water metering for private use.
So it's about, I think Corey Boster from USW talked about it, and I think he mentioned the city, but the issue is the policy around, does there need to be a policy for a company to be able to use your fire hydrant to build their development? And if they haven't paid for any water, that means they owe the city water. How do we go about, again, we don't have to be, we're not talking negatively. We're saying, one, do we have a policy? And then kind of that step process. So it'd be a policy around temporary water meters, or, but there was what's thing that happened. So if a developer put up a development and they didn't pay for water, where'd they get it from? And so,
That's still a police case.
right, but we don't,
Right, so the agenda item opens us up to have the discussion about what the policy is.
Correct.
And then if there's not the policy, we can develop the policy.
Right.
So that's what the agenda item that he's already put in place is gonna allow us to have that conversation in its totality.
Yeah,
Make
that
sure
it
it's
sounds,
addressed.
If there's not a policy in place, then the theft of service is the theft of service in its own merit. We don't have to determine what that is.
Councilman?
call for the question.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed have the same right? Let the record show is unanimous, Ms. Martin.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Rowland?
I have another one. I want to, we need to discuss, consider operations, policies, budget, and procedures for public works with USW.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we have an agenda item to discuss policies, whatever.
Consider operations, policies, budget, and procedure for USW. You can refer to July 9th, 2019's meeting.
Okay.
July 9th.
July 9th, we had a workshop.
And you've heard the motion, ready for the questions?
Question.
Would that pick up on, because we're about to finalize, we haven't totally finalized the actual contract with oh, that's right, Trilogy is gonna do the engineering piece, look at that, and we're finishing Trilogy.
Yes, we
That's
were
where we
hoping
are.
to have Trilogy in front of you tonight. We finished it up last week, but they didn't finish their review in time to have them in place to be reviewing that. So
Okay, so
you
we'll
may or
put
may
it
not
on
have that at
and
the
see
time
if
of your
it's
next
already-
meeting, but you can at least keep it on the
We'll
agenda to
go
keep
with that,
it.
just dialogue.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the reason why I asked for it, because we needed to have another meeting, and we haven't had that meeting. We need to also continue to kind of work through processes and procedures on what this looks like, and we need to do that, so.
Okay. Any other discussion, readiness?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Again, I don't necessarily know if this has to be an agenda item. Can you well, never mind. Can we discuss, I'd like to move that we discuss, consider, and take action on, functions including personnel, budget, and policies for the Prairie Police Department.
Already said that.
As a joke.
Okay, we got, okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman.
I move that we have a discussion. Wait, first, we still have the zip code committee, right? We never rescinded it, did we?
Yeah,
So technically, we still have zip code committee, right? Okay. So I move that we have a discussion on a zip code strategic plan.
Second.
Okay. You've heard the motion, ready for the questions? All those in favor? Ayes have it. Something else? Radu?
Move to adjourn. Anything else? Move to adjourn.
Second.
Done.